Fellow travelers, you're in the LZ, and it's the day, everybody. We've made it. Good morning, and I hope you're enjoying Beyond. And we're going to talk about the patch notes here and everything that I know about the game so far. Sort of what I'm hearing in the first few hours, bugs, fixes, issues that people are experiencing. So we're going to talk about all of that stuff this morning, so it might be a little bit of a lengthy video. We'll try to squeeze it down as much as possible. But grab a coffee, grab a brewski, sit back, listen to the LZ as we talk through the features of No Man's Sky Beyond, the entire comprehensive list of awesomeness, right? This got a lot of good stuff in it. I took the time to look through it. As far as bugs, I took some time to check out my PS4 save this morning. There are some issues. I'll talk about those, and then I will alleviate your stress, hopefully, on how to address those things. So let's talk patch notes, everybody. So we're going to keep going down here. So Beyond introducing Update 2.0. We've seen the trailer already. Obviously, VR is probably a central pillar to this, right? I'm seeing a lot of enjoyment of this so far on my feed. I'm seeing some complaints about lower resolution for PSVR, which is kind of expected, right? It's not going to be graphically immaculate, right? Especially for a console, right? So if you are a PC player, which at the time of the recording of this video, it's about 10:30 a.m. Central Time for me, and the Steam version has still not launched yet. So I'm not hearing anything from those folks because they obviously aren't playing the game yet. Our most requested feature, you can now play the entirety of No Man's Sky in VR. A lot of footage that I'm seeing so far is pretty cool, right? I haven't watched any streams yet, but definitely y'all should be checking that stuff out on YouTube, Mixer, Twitch, whatever. A lot of folks already streaming the game in VR, and I'm hearing a lot of good stuff about it. So expanded multiplayer, right? This is where everybody's meeting in the Nexus. There's some clarifications here, maybe a little more confusion. With this, it says that throughout the rest of the universe, the maximum player count has increased from 4 to 8 players on console and from 4 to 32 on PC. So I don't know if this is a retraction from 16 players that was talked about in a lot of media outlets last week. Or am I misunderstanding this? Is it, I think it's like 16 players in the Nexus. Like, how is this working exactly? Because now it's saying that it's 4 to 8 on console. I'm thinking anywhere else. I'm going to need some clarification on this because I'm not seeing exactly what that means yet. We'll talk a little bit more about the Nexus here a little bit, and when I talk about my experiences for that so far. But up to 32 players on PC, I'm kind of interested to check that out. I do own the game on PC too, so I'm going to be capturing a lot of footage and stuff there. Yeah, pretty cool screenshots here so far. Virtual reality and standard mode players can be seamlessly match-made into the same multiplayer session. So I think it's just sort of randomly matching people in the Nexus. You can call the Nexus anytime, by the way, when you're in space, and it just sort of appears. You go into it. It did take a little bit of time for everything to start happening, right? You fly in, you land, and the place is virtually empty. And this might just be a launch thing, right? As the game is sort of trying to ramp up and connect everybody together. I'm hoping they address that or at least streamline that a little bit because I've noticed that, it took about 60 seconds for everything to get going. This is on PS4 Pro, by the way. And then once everybody loaded in, it quickly grinded to a halt. My frame rate tanked, and then it just locked up on me. Like nothing was happening. So clearly a bug, clearly something to be addressed here in the coming days and weeks. So do look forward to Hello Games doing that. This happens every time, folks. The best time to start a new journey. So they sort of tightened up the entry into the game, right? So a lot more tutorials, missions and tutorials specifically have been revised to help newer players sort of be a little more educated and not have to sort of play a guessing game or trial and error with how their experience works. I'd like to maybe explore perhaps making a video on that as well. New story content has been added to weave together the existing strands. So right now there's a few different types of story campaigns within No Man's Sky. They're sort of nebulous in their delivery. There's a lot of lore. Little confusing for me to follow, really, but there's definitely mission structure here. The story of Artemis particularly is like a 30-40 hour campaign, depending on how long you'd like to spend with it. But what they're doing here is they're sort of refining the pins, right? You could pin things before in No Man's Sky, and it was, to me, it was kind of buggy. It didn't really do a whole lot, whereas now, once you pinned things, it gives you a lot more information, right, on sort of where to go, what to do to get this thing, right? So what kind of substances you need, where do you go to get it, right? And the example here is talking about geodesite, and it says that, okay, here's the things that you need. You need to craft or refine dirty bronze, Herox, and lemium, and then it tells you what planets and where to go to get these things, which is really cool. So that's certainly helpful. Riding animals. Like, I don't know who thought this up, and I don't know the practicality of this, but I can't wait to try it. It's weird. Ambient multiplayer. Ambient encounters with other explorers are now represented with full character models. So before in No Man's Sky, before this update, if you just happened upon somebody, if they weren't in your party, if they weren't part of your sort of 4-player co-op gang, then you wouldn't see a player model. You would just see a floating orb, which was kind of a short-sighted thing, to be honest. With the introduction of player models and characters and third person view perspectives, it was weird to happen upon somebody and not see them automatically. So they've addressed that here. It also says ship customizations here. I don't exactly know what they mean because they don't really go into detail on that. So I wonder if you can change your colors and things, maybe sort of functionally, kind of like you do your exocraft. More on that as I try to get clarifications. But surviving, building, and exploring together is richer and more immediate than ever. Use the voice and networking interface to group up with explorers as you encounter. PC players can use the expanded chat interface to control group options and manage communications. That's pretty cool. And I'm wagering with conjecture here, but I imagine that you can turn these off too. Which is something I might have to do if the Nexus continues to give me problems, this social hub here. Speaking of the social hub and the Nexus, the Space Anomaly has been transformed. So originally, the Space Anomaly was just a smaller interior. It was very focused on some more story elements and maybe a central place to go to get things like new helmets and things during the community activities shortly after Next. But they've completely redone the interior, right? And I have not taken the time to really explore the interior of this yet because, as I said, it kind of locked up on me when I tried to do so. So I think I might have to turn networking off to get a good glimpse of what's going on in here. But there's a lot of cool features in here, right? It gives you the capability to, if you're partied up with other folks or if you want to talk with other folks, you can immediately go and see their bases, which is really cool. And then it also features bases too, which is if you have a super mega base or like you have a central base at the Galactic Hub or something like that, that's featured. I don't know exactly to the frequency or how one gets featured. I think Hello Games might control that somehow. Maybe they just might pick a base and be like, let's feature that today or this week. But they literally did put Fireteam in there as verbiage. That's pretty cool. So explorers, so here's the anomaly. If you have not played No Man's Sky before, the interior of this sort of gigantic space orb is what you see here, which is pretty badass. I'm not going to lie. Nexus missions, right? So multiplayer missions are now initialized from this particular panel, which is called the Nexus. So I'm sort of getting my terminology mixed up here. So I'm guessing this is the Nexus and the anomaly is still this orb here, which is I thought that they had renamed the whole thing, but I guess there is a difference between the two. So a large set of unique missions is currently available, including a new style of mission, base construction. So more on base construction here in a little bit. They're going to expand on that stuff. But essentially, you can earn units and nanites and stuff like that from doing these missions with yourself or other people or whatever. So it's cool that you can have a central place to go and get this kind of stuff. Technology trees. This is where my toes curl, folks. I'm really excited for this. And I'm going to just read this out. Blueprints are now visualized through unlockable technology trees. Learning new crafting recipes is now clearer, more interactive, and more rewarding. The blueprint analyzer has been transformed into an advanced construction research unit. Players may now choose their own research path and more clearly visualize their research progress. Even more base parts are available aboard the space anomaly. So, historically, No Man's Sky has sort of lacked a progression, right? It's sort of there, but it's more emergent. It's not very guided. It isn't anywhere close to something like a Call of Duty where you're leveling up and you're unlocking things, and there is it never had that sort of sense of progression, right? So ship upgrades and being able to sort of travel down this thing and do upgrades at will. I'm pretty excited for this, right? I always felt like there needed to be some kind of some kind of a less emergent, more direct progression, a more in-your-face approach when it comes to sort of how you deal with things, because generally in No Man's Sky, things are really doled out through RNG and random findings of items and purchases and things like that. And there's more to this system here that's going to more excite you, which I'm super excited about. So they're adding a lot of extra NPCs into the anomaly as well, which I'm super excited for this because really, historically, you've only had like 3 or 4 meaningful NPCs within No Man's Sky. You had Nada, you had Polo. They sort of helped with things like research and stuff like that, where now that has a more meaningful structure of things that you can do, right? You can purchase enhancements for exosuit, starship, multi-tool, exocraft technology. I mean, these things were already kind of in the game at space stations, so I'm happy to see that they're sort of adding more depth to this stuff. That's super cool. Unlock freighter and frigate technologies from the freighter bridge, so that's pretty neat. Learn product recipes at specialist research trees and planetary facilities. This is remarkable to me because historically planet-based or planet-side facilities and buildings were just sort of just not necessary. I mean, they're there. There's some cool things that you could do. I mean, if you're searching for like strong multi-tools and stuff like that, you know, that might be a good reason to go. I know in the early game, right, in the first 10, 20 hours, if you're really focusing on exploring and getting upgrades and tech modules and stuff like that, right, you would want to go to these places. You kind of have to go to these places to get those things, right? Blueprints and such for various things are located in these buildings. So it's really cool that they're sort of adding more depth to those, because that was kind of a big complaint, is that the planets, sure, exploring is fun if you're finding things, right? And finding a building that has nothing in it or no meaning. I'm appreciative of that. Explorers can enjoy longer stretches of uninterrupted mining with less frequent and less aggressive sentinels. I know that was always a problem, that, you know, on certain planets, if you mine something or even just barely touch something with a laser, that's the sound of the police coming after you. So they reworked the overheat mechanics to pushing heat to the limit. I think they also fixed what probably was an exploit. So if you sort of like heat your multi-tool up to a certain degree and it gets red, then you let it go, it just sort of resets itself like it never happened. Ship controls and space combat balance have been improved. I have confirmed this in my playtime this morning. Inventory limitations have been relaxed, allowing explorers to carry near unlimited quantities of mined substances. At the bottom in the patch notes, it says that this is for normal mode. I'm a survival player. I didn't get a chance to see this exactly, so I need to clarify that as well. The inventory UI has been revised and improved. Thank you, Jesus. The UI and inventory has kind of always been a problem. It's been sort of unwieldy and just it's lacking in the opportunity achievement department. So I'm glad they're focusing on that too. A large number of quality of life issues have been addressed. New recipes, technologies have been added to alleviate grinding, which is really cool. I don't remember No Man's Sky ever really having an annoying grind so much as that it just felt arbitrary to do so, right? Like, why am I grinding for this thing that doesn't really provide a ton of satisfaction, right? So examples include warp cells or large specialist warp cells. They're sort of adding larger warp cells from what I can gather in the patch notes. Let's see. They installed another ramp that nobody's going to use in the space station. Let's be honest. I think they should just get rid of this whole walkway here and then move this ramp backwards. So that maybe people might use it a little bit better. I don't know. Or maybe sort of add a ramp going inwards. That might be better. But these ramps, I think I can think of maybe one or two occasions that I've actually taken these ramps. I don't know if they just did this as a joke, and if they did, I'm impressed. That's great. Let me spend 40 to 80 hours making this bridge that nobody is going to take as a joke. That's commitment for you. Discovery page looks fantastic. So they went in and they overhauled everything. It used to be that things were a little more modeled within the discoveries page. I think they pulled back on that for performance and more of a gratification within the UI menu because things were kind of a sluggish for a bit. But now you can see whole planets, check out all of your resources within, or all your discoveries within that system. I don't know if they added a sort of upload all discoveries button. I know they still have the existing discoveries for systems that you've discovered, but I don't know how that's going to work for like discoveries on planets and stuff like that. So I should test that out. They're not being very specific with that. Planetary charts, I tested this today, and this is really cool. So specific buildings are now located via a system of planetary charts purchased from the space station cartographer. So this is sort of a new shop within the space station, and you can go in and sort of purchase maps, right? Sort of a instant gratification thing instead of landing on planets and scanning for stuff, right? Plopping down scanners to try to find various buildings. Buying these maps sort of randomly helps you locate points of interest from the space station, which I think is really cool. So I bought one. It goes into your inventory, and then from there you go into your inventory, you activate it, and it calls out a point of interest. And it was actually a pretty significant point of interest, too. It was an abandoned ship on a planet, or a crashed ship. So when I went there was a Gek walking around this crashed ship. This is very new, by the way. I talked to the Gek, and he was like, bro, can you help me repair my ship? That would be great. And so I did. I activated the ship. I got things fixed with an item that I needed. It gives you an option, which was kind of funny too. It was like, hey, do you sort of want to half-ass fix this ship, or do you want to do a more deeper repair for them? So obviously I did the deeper repair. I incidentally had the item that it needed. And then the Gek was just like, yeah, and then rewarded me with some cool stuff. Like nanites, like actual nanite clusters he rewarded me, like 100 of them. And that's pretty significant considering, like, an S tier upgrade costs about 400, at least in the next build. But super nice addition here. Galaxy map, I'm iffy on these changes. I need to know more. Information on the galaxy map is more concisely displayed. It doesn't have the sort of letterbox build in it anymore, which is really cool. They sort of made things a little more minimalist, right? Which is pretty neat. I think the changes are nice visually. I'm just hoping for more of a systemic change too, right? So let's say if I want to travel, I want to take the long time to exhaustively travel across the galaxy. I want to be able to put some coordinates into the galactic map and then have it create a waypoint system for me to travel there. Because let's be honest, finding stars in this needle of a stack of needles type of situation is a gigantic pain in the nuts. So I hope they have added that, or it doesn't say that they did. That's kind of disappointment. It's kind of disappointing to me if they didn't, because that would really, really help. I mean, the galactic map is awesome. Like, don't get me wrong, but I'm really hoping they add a little more functionality to make things easier. Okay. So here's some VR stuff. I'm not a huge VR user, so I'm going to try to pick through this as I can. But really, they've gone in and built No Man's Sky essentially from the ground up to accommodate VR. And if it's one thing that I'm hearing so far about VR is that it's an excellent experience. Just its implementation has been great. Now, graphically, it's not as great, right? You're probably going to see some lower res textures. You won't see things like bump maps and things like that on the ground, as evidenced by the GIF here. The frame rate is probably going to be buttery smooth, right? I'm hearing good things about that so far. Yeah, functionally, it looks fantastic, right? They went in, they added gestures. There is controller support for those of you who don't have Move controllers, or you just want to utilize controllers because you're not all about that motion control garbage. But yeah, everything looks. I'm hearing a lot of good stuff about the implementation for VR. Ships. It shows a picture of ships sort of arbitrarily out of context to the rest of the thing, but they do talk about that here in a little bit. They do have new traveler NPCs. They've invited 12 new. We talked about this a little bit earlier, but there's 12 new people located on the anomaly. This bro looks like an owl. Check that guy out. Like an owl with like a mustache. This is like my favorite design right here. That's crazy. I like this guy. And this guy over here kind of looks like a Mars Attacks type of thing. So, wow. Good designs there. Return to these travelers each day to experience a range of interactions, missions, and nanite earning opportunities. So I'm wondering if this is sort of a persistent multiplayer, sort of keep you coming back type of thing. Kind of like how Overwatch or Halo 5 gives you like a daily bonus or something for logging in and playing that day. Destiny kind of does the same, right? Where, hey, complete one multiplayer match today and you'll get a strong thing or whatever. But new alien encounters, more than 60 new dialogues available from NPCs encountered on planetary facilities, featuring mini stories and missions, kind of like what I encountered with the Gek that I helped fix their ship. Animations have been improved. I can confirm that is definitely true. It looks really cool, especially when they have like their little hologram things here, which, you know, functionally makes no sense, but definitely looks great. Dialogue boxes have been improved to more clearly distinguish between descriptive text and dialogue. I can confirm this too, dynamic NPCs. Now, when they talked about, when it was revealed sort of months ago that NPCs can walk around, at first I was just like, yeah, I don't care. Like, that's sort of a mundane thing that I guess it definitely adds, because when I was on the space station, they were definitely walking around, and it definitely, like, I could hear their footsteps. It was pretty cool, right? It was a good experience. But at the same time, it's just like, cool, thank you for adding more immersion, I guess. But then I saw them walking around on the planet, and I thought that was neat. I'm sort of eating my own foot at this point. When I came across that Gek and the crashed ship, and he's just sort of walking around it, sort of looking worried. I thought that was really, really nice. So, me eating my words for sure. I also checked this at a trading post as far as NPCs responding to your gestures, and they definitely do. I went over and sort of waved at one, and he turned around and just sort of shrugged at me. It was a Gek as well, stupid, dirty birds. Some alien NPCs may be encountered on the planet's surface with new unique sets of dialogue, and it sort of just shows what I went through here. That was pretty cool. Alien languages, they're expanding and streamlining how you learn alien languages and words. You also have an auto-translator tech that's available for the exosuit to help translate small numbers of unknown words, right, to help you make your conversations a little bit easier. Nice of them to do that. More than 700 new alien words have been added to the dictionary, and they also kind of did things to help sort of bring some words together, right? Like, you don't have to learn a separate word for traveler and travelers, right? It's one word, which is really nice. Tame creatures with bait, mount, and ride them. Now, I hope you didn't join in this video right at that moment. But anyway, yeah, that's riding creatures is definitely a thing. Look at this guy over here, man. He's working hard to tame that buck. Look at that. Yeah, so riding animals is definitely a thing. And shout out to everybody that thought this was like a gun turret or something. Because now it looks like these are things that hook onto your nipples and pull out the juice. I don't know who came up with this idea, but way to go. So yeah, milking is a thing in No Man's Sky. Cooking, recipes, new plants on planet services that help you do your cooking thing. Super cool for them to do that. Harvest raw cooking materials from planets and creatures and experiment with those in that process, right? More than 300 delicious recipes. Like, I wonder who got assigned this task at Hello Games. Just like Sean Murray's got like the morning meeting going on and they did their pep clap and they're just like, yeah, we're making No Man's Sky. And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, so let's make cooking a thing. And then we need recipes, and then we need somebody on the anomaly, sort of like a Gordon Ramsay style alien to judge your cooking results and tell you about how dry your cake is or something. I wonder who took that task up sort of gleefully, and they're just like, oh, fuck yeah, I want to do that. Create bait to tame creatures, consume your creations to boost your exosuit, and just like I said a moment ago, you have a culinary critique for Cronus aboard the Anomaly. So check this dude. He's sort of beefy. You know, he likes food. He's got like what was that guy? Mario Batali type of thing to him without all the red hair. Let's just hope this guy doesn't get Me Too'd the same way. Base power system. So this is neat. I'm kind of happy to be reading this because essentially what this is, I'll give you the long and the short of it. This is sort of a better, more functional way. It's a little bit more meta, right? And it gives you a little bit more of a way to keep your base powered and going with more of a hands-off approach, right? Because bases now, like, you have to return to all of your plants and you have to refuel the growing pods, and it's just, the whole thing is just a mess. So they're adding a ton of new functionality like wiring and electricity and generators and solar panels and logic gates and switches and stuff like that, a la Minecraft, for people to sort of create their own weird, cool stuff. So I see like generators and power lines, and I'm kind of excited for this, and I am absolutely too dumb to try to figure this stuff out. So I hope they make this stuff a little accessible to somebody like me, because that shit just wasn't happening in Minecraft. Optimization. I can confirm this too. I am playing on PS4 Pro, with the exception of when I landed on the Anomaly and all the players loaded in. Things were definitely running smoother. Historically, things even on PS4 Pro, like the frame rate was just sort of all over the place, right? When you're in space, it was definitely 60, but on planet surfaces, especially when things are getting busy with storms and whatnot, it just wasn't happening. And if you have a moderately sized base, kiss your frame rate goodbye, right? You're in the teens at that point. But Planetary and Freighter bases, I want to call this out too, is that they're adding multiple levels of details and rendering techniques for bases, right? And I think that's neat. Because historically that just didn't happen, right? When you built a base, those building items, which was sort of there, they didn't really do a whole lot to show a level of detail depending on distance. So that's why your frame rate tanked, because the game just simply wasn't optimized and built to be able to handle it. And for those of you who are on PC, especially lower end PCs, and this might be good news for me, because I have a medium strength PC, right? It's formidable, but it's definitely showing its age. Another cool thing is that shaders are now, for those of you who are on PC, beforehand with Next, you had to sit at the loading screen at the very beginning waiting for shaders to load, and this could take minutes. So that's really nice too, that they're just sort of like, they're letting the shaders be on demand rather than cramming them all into your PC straight away. Base building, notable here for base building is that they're giving a new camera's perspective, so you don't have to use this existing camera perspective for base building. They also have like a photo mode where it's just like a floating camera where you can just sort of float around your base and build it that way. So that's definitely an easier functionality to help build your bases. They give you a lot of extra new parts. All of this stuff, just like Hello Games is so good with designing things, right? Like, it looks interesting, it doesn't look stupid, like the designs are really good. Like, Hello Games has some really formidable artists in this industry, so good on them. Build menu usability has also been improved. I can confirm that as well. The build option definitely sort of categorizes things a little bit better. They're adding industry to No Man's Sky, so industrial base building. So basically for mining materials, gases. But something that I want to really call out, which is interesting. Survey planet surfaces for hidden deep level mineral deposits, concentrated gas clouds, or electromagnetic hotspots. So they're not just saying, hey, you just build this factory, right? You've got to go and locate the resources that you're mining, which I think is really cool, right? So if I want to find a mineral deposit that's in some cave somewhere, that gives you a little bit more reason to go into a cave, which is super useful. Like, I'm happy they're doing that. Let's see. Some more equipment here. Starship enhancements, they definitely went in. And they definitely redid things. And I can confirm that too. When I first got on my ship, not only is it just beautiful, you can look almost all the way around the ship. And it's got like things at the side of your vision. It's excellent. Let's see. Ships definitely do look more detailed. They are definitely double the size of what they were. They are definitely larger. More virtual reality stuff. We talked about this already. First-person exocraft driving. So I don't know if this is exclusively in VR. I'm seeing a lot of users that are saying that you can't access this yet in non-VR environments, which is kind of, I don't know if it's a bug or what, but I need them to add that. Please add that for me, Hello Games, the non-VR user. Controller support, they're definitely talking about that. That's also good controller support. They added Vulkan support on PC, particularly for AMD cards and older CPUs to help handle better things. They're expanding PC graphic options, so this looks really good. Yeah, this is definitely better than sort of the old menu, which was kind of unwieldy of sorts. This is magical right here. Many video and graphical options such as resolution, VSync, window mode can now be altered without restarting the game. This has been a gigantic complaint of mine, especially being able to change resolutions, because I do like to change resolutions to things like, like 4K, if I want to take some 4K shots on PC, some beauty shots to upload to the internet or whatever. Expanded controller support, especially for things like accessibility options, right? That's very nice of them to do. You have the capability of sitting now. So dumb. Good job for them though, adding that kind of stuff. And then we get into the patch notes here. So a lot of this is reiterating a lot of what we just talked about here. Controls and options, the space anomaly talks about the sort of things that they did here. I'm obviously going to put this in the description below for all of you to click and read yourselves. There's a lot of new stuff in here. A few of these items are definitely worthy of picking out. A lot of streamlining, fixing old bugs, very interesting things in this stuff here. So what we did was we essentially went over the big highlights. They did fix a number of bugs, especially like exploits and things to that nature. Discovery and exploration. They made birds and butterflies easier to scan because that shit was a chore. Visual polish. They definitely made a lot of changes there. It definitely runs better on PS4. Quality of life changes, like the exosuit torch can be turned on and off whenever you want. Yay. That's really significant there. But also, congrats to Ennis McKendrick, right? I don't know if he's still with the team or not, but Ennis has gone out on some kind of journey, I think, just walking continents. Why not, right? More power to him. That sounds like a huge goal. But the last thing, it is very, very important for bugs at this point in this whole thing, right? You need to report bugs. Sure, you can have your little flip outs on Twitter and the Reddit and whatnot about how broken the game is or might be for you, but help Hello Games help you, right? This is very important. I'm going to pop a link in the description below. Any issues that you have, jump into that link. This goes to the Hello Games Zendesk, where we can put in tickets with whatever issues that we are having, and then just let them have it, right? And they will dive in and fix these things over the coming days or weeks. It happens every single time. This is nothing unusual. I'm even hearing that it's probably a good idea, at least temporarily, to start a new save, because that clears up a lot of issues too. So historically, most of the issues have been primarily on legacy saves that are moving over from a previous version to another one. So they're going to get it fixed, everybody. Have some patience. And thank you for stopping by the LZ to talk through the patch notes with me today, and I will see y'all later.